Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to sit down with you at a place other than the bunker.
Shout out to the bunker.
Yeah, shout out to the bunker.
North Greenbush bunker.
Yeah, that's right. We should be specific on the bunker location that we
Yes.
normally meet up at.
They're all great, but that one's holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. But beyond life at the bunker in North Greenbush, let's start with the OG of KG. Where were you born and where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in a small town, Ghent, New York, in Columbia County. It's about 45 minutes south of here. Really country place. I'm an only child. And then basically, I guess I'll keep going through this. Went to college out in Hartwick in Oneonta, New York. Played soccer out there, played lacrosse 2 years out there as well. And then when I came home, I moved to Troy and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. So were you always an athlete even prior to college, growing up as a kid?
So I was a really awkward kid, I felt like. I wasn't really a good athlete. And then I hit high school and I had speed and, I just always pretty much identified as an athlete. I always was playing sports. I played soccer was my main sport. I played basketball, ran track, played softball. So like I said, I always kind of identified as an athlete. I really love sports. I love being athletic. I love working out. So yeah.
Yeah. So you grew up in Columbia County, went
Yep.
to college out at Hartwick, Oneonta.
Yep.
And you came back to Troy. What brought you back to Troy?
Well, it's funny because I feel like everyone that kind of lives in Columbia County makes like the big move up to the Capital District, I guess I would say. I really wanted to be up here and I loved Troy. And it just so happens I found this great little studio apartment in Troy on Craigslist, and the owner that leased it to me was actually from Hartwick. So I felt like it was like meant to be. I should say this, I should preface this, that I did move to Latham for 2 years, 2 years, 3 years, 2 years. And then I met my husband and moved back to Troy, and I've been there ever since.
Did you come back mainly just for a job, or what did it feel like you just were really tied into the community and it just spoke to you at that time of your life?
It kind of spoke to me. I loved it. Like I said, everyone was kind of moving up here. It was fun. I had a good nightlife, everything like that. I actually got really lucky out of college. I got hired. I'm in the insurance industry, which I don't really talk about my work a lot on Instagram, but I got really lucky with the job and ended up working from home. They gave me a company car. I worked from home, but I had to be in the Capital District. So it kind of just like tied hand in hand.
Yeah. So when you were a younger professional and when you were right out of college, how did your fitness journey kind of play a part in that early on?
So basically, I came home from college, played soccer there, like I said, lacrosse, and I came home and I needed something to fill that void, especially living from home or living alone, working from home by myself. I needed like something to kind of get out into the world. And that's, I actually had, I kept playing soccer at Aframs. I played like 3 or 4 times a week. It's an indoor soccer place that's right in Colony. And I met this girlfriend, shout out Brittany Mangione, and she was a marathon runner. And she's like, you should start running. And I set a goal to run a 15K, and it just kind of progressed from there. And it became kind of filling that void of being a college athlete or working for something my whole entire life and wasn't there anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's go back to that time of your life when you're really just discovering this love of running.
Yeah.
When you think back to that first run or runs, what made you start to really love it?
So, I mean, this was back in 2008. Living in Troy. My mom's probably going to be terrified that I say this because I don't think I told her, but I used to run at night through downtown Troy. And in 2008, it wasn't the best area to run in and whatnot. And that was the time before, you carried your phone everywhere. But I liked that feeling of being detached from the world. Like nobody could touch me, and I still, like, people are probably going to cringe. I have, like, running friends that are like, are you kidding me? But I still don't run with my phone. I like that time where I'm on the pavement and nobody can touch me. Nobody can speak ill of me or can contact me. I'm just in my own world, kind of doing what I want to do,
So I'm just imagining you running now through Troy at night at this time of your life. So
at 21 years
at
old.
21 years old. So maybe to play the age game here, is there an iPhone? Is there a Walkman? Like, what are we talking about for tech support
Let's see
here?
at that point. I think it was a Sidekick. Remember those that like flipped up?
Oh,
It
like-
was, or not flipped up, but like you kind of like clicked up and you could like have the keypad.
Oh, okay.
It's not dating myself, but that was 17 years ago.
Okay.
So very long time ago, before, they had like the armbands and everything like that.
Do you remember some of the songs you would listen to? Did you have like a go-to playlist?
I don't
back then?
remember that. It's funny because now I don't run with music. I haven't ran with music since 2018. But I love like I love listening to music that have like inspirational like lyrics, I guess. Like
Okay.
I know I'm like kind of jumping ahead, but like Eminem's Cinderella Man will forever be like my go-to jam. Just because the
Great
lyrics.
song choice, yeah.
I love like the underdog, like coming out when all the odds are against you. So, but I don't remember like running with music back then. But I probably had like remember the Apple like iShuffles? Like
Yes.
the little, I
Yeah.
still have mine.
Okay.
I could probably sell it on eBay for a lot of money. But no, I remember having like things like that, or the iPad or iPods. Remember like the
Yes, the
yeah.
original one, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really remember the music that I listened to, but probably club music.
So club music? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So what year roughly are we talking about that you're really getting into running?
So 2008,
Okay.
I ran my first 15K, the Boilermaker, out in Utica. My goal was to run it without having any time restraint, but I just wanted to run it without walking. And I did that, and something kind of like hit me that I was like, I couldn't imagine my friend Brittany that had run all these marathons. But once I ran that, it was kind of like your mind is like, okay, what can I do next? And as a soccer player, I was playing, like I said, I was playing 3 to 4 times a week. I was already running. So I was like, it gave me something else to work for. I will say this, the first half marathon I ran, I barely trained for it and I thought I was going to die. So I think I think I started running, I found the importance in it. And then, being a 22-year-old at that point, other things come into mind, you're partying with your friends, going out and everything like that. And that kind of takes a side burner. But, running has been the one thing that has always been there for me, I feel like, and has been attainable in some way, Like I said, you go out there and nobody can touch you or anything like that.
So nobody can touch you, but what is the relationship at that point that you're having with yourself as you're going through that experience, running that first 15K?
It was an experience like no other because, as a college soccer player, you run, like they say, an average player can run about 5 miles per game. To run 9.3 miles, you don't think that that's something that you can do. And I think it kind of, how do I put this? It just, that feeling of being able to accomplish something like that you don't think that you could ever do, I think goes a long way. And I think you can understand that too, with with what you've been through and, your fitness journey. I think it says a lot where you tap into something that you never thought was there and you can run with it. No pun intended.
Yeah,
but
no, I couldn't agree more. And I've had my own experiences with it for sure. I remember so vividly doing, whether it's a first dry try, I did it at Orange Theory, or my first 15K was actually last fall for the Schenectady
Congrats,
Stockade-a-thon.
which is the best race. Another plug. Good race.
Very good race, except I did not know how much it was going to be hills.
But that last downhill is amazing, right?
Yeah, that last downhill is amazing, but thankfully I've got pretty good quads and calves. So
They held up.
They held up. Yeah. So you do the first 15K, and then from there, what's the timeline for getting into half marathons and then eventually full marathons for you?
So it was probably, I had a group of girls that I played soccer with, and they had run a half before or a couple of them had. And they were like, "Let's go down." I'll never forget. It's I forgot the name of the race now, but it used to be and it was I don't know if it's still around. I should know the race, but it was an all-female race in Long Island. They have them various around the country or day. And basically their kind of claim to fame was that when you hit mile 12, they would give you a pink boa and a tiara and you would cross the finish line like that. So my friends were like, "Why don't we go down to Long Island and do this?" And I was like, "That's kind of a fun one." Like I said, I didn't train. That was miserable. Then I just started writing them kind of for fun just because other friends wanted to do them. It wasn't until, God, I want to say 2012 that I, out of nowhere, I just was like kind of not running, kind of like playing soccer, but needed something more. I entered the lottery for the New York City marathon or half marathon, which is in March, and I got in. And that's when I started really taking it seriously and started training. And I hit under 2 hours and I felt so good. I felt so strong. And that was when I was like, you know what? After that was my fourth half marathon, I was like, I'm ready to take on a marathon. I ran the Mohawk Hudson, which is local here, 2012 in the fall. I trained. It was the hardest 22 weeks of my life, but it was always on my bucket list to run a marathon. And truth be told, after every marathon, I've run 10. After every single marathon, I utter the same words. I am never doing this again. And it always just, it makes you keep coming back for more because, like I said, it's like your mind is thinking about all these things you can't do. And then you start doing them and you just want to keep seeing how much you can push your body.
Yeah. So you go through those experiences, you start doing some marathons. And I've talked with a lot of people about when you accomplish those big things on a fitness or wellness journey, how that usually translates to other parts of your life. So when you accomplish those things, does that elevated confidence, that sense that I could do something I didn't think I could do before, translate it all to other parts of your life?
110%. I feel like I said, I always kind of identified as an athlete because I think it gives you a confidence that you can do whatever you set your mind to. Like my thing is like I said, I'm a big fan of the underdog. I was never a really good athlete. I kind of grew into my awkward own body. But my whole thing was nobody's gonna work harder than I am. And I think that can be kind of laid out in life. Like, getting that job, interviewing for a job and saying like, I may not know X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to work harder to know that. I have a daughter that's 8. It's always been really hard of me or it's really been hard for me to become a mom. But you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep working towards that because that's what kind of being an athlete's about. So
Let me go back to that. What do you say more about that? What do you mean it's hard for you to become a mom, or why was it hard for you to become a mom?
I just I don't want to say I never wanted to have kids, but I just never felt like I would be a good mom kind of thing. I suffered from postpartum depression really badly, which I I had a really good friend that I lost due to postpartum depression. I didn't realize I had postpartum depression until I lost her. I've always suffered from depression, anxiety, um, and I just really struggled with the fact of like, not the fact, but like connecting with her in a weird way. There's some moms with postpartum depression that, they can't leave their child. For me, I just really struggled with being attached to her. But I'm lucky, like, I threw myself into fitness, which probably wasn't the healthiest way to cope, but it helped me get through that hard time in my life. And now that I can proudly say now that I have the best relationship with her and I have a connection that I could only dream of. So,
It's interesting you say that because I know with my own grief journey of losing my dad, I had to fight through feelings of probably overtraining or asking myself what was my real intention behind exercise.
yep.
Was it to fuel my body in a healthy way, or was it to distract myself from the real thoughts and feelings I was having? So when you're going through that postpartum depression, can you talk a little bit more to some of those things that you were battling? Was it maybe just working out too much or not
I
recovering as much?
I definitely think that I threw myself into training. I threw myself in hard. Um, when I was pregnant with Ellie, I hated being pregnant. I was so miserable. And I actually, the only thing that kept me okay was running. I ran a half marathon in each trimester, and then I actually ran a marathon 20 weeks pregnant with her. It was the only way that I felt normal. So those first 4 weeks that I couldn't work out or run, I religiously walked with her. I just needed to move in some way. And then when I was cleared to work out again and run again, I threw myself in it because it's how I felt like me still. I didn't want to lose that identity of me. And no, like I know there's people out there who, they identify themselves primarily as a mom. I didn't want to lose myself into that. Um, and I just think that I got a running coach. I started training. I ran the Chicago Marathon. I was trying to cross the finish line in sub 4. And I think that the training gave me that regimen that I needed and that routine and just feeling like myself to like kind of make it through each day. Like I said, I didn't realize how bad I had postpartum depression until I had a friend actually set up a doctor's appointment for me. And the doctor was like, "Hey, you've been through a lot. Like, you need to talk about this. You need to go back to therapy and things like that." So I definitely overtrained myself, but it definitely was my therapy that I needed at that point. So,
Yeah, I would imagine it takes a lot of time given the relationship you had with training and being an athlete. And clearly, the way you're talking about it, you wanted to still feel like you were yourself as KG, as Kristen, as an athlete, but also wanting to feel like you're obviously being a good parent
yeah.
and a good mom. So, can you talk to me about the last 8 years? What has that really been like to kind of find that evolution for yourself where you can do these things like training for the Helderberg that you just did,
hmm
but also, in your own words, have this great relationship with your daughter?
So, like I said, it was really hard. I went through about a 4-year stint where my mental health was off the charts. It was just awful. I wasn't doing good things for myself. I was associating myself not in good things. And I was kind of just paralyzed by my anxiety. And I ran away through my training. I was really distant with Ellie, sadly enough. But the thing is that when I was running, I kind of thought in my mind, you know what? At least I'm showing her that she can do hard things. She can work through things, and even if it's not ideal, um, you can find good outlets to kind of push that stress and that mental health out. We had talked. I didn't run for about 2.5 years, and running was always my time. The strength that got me through every day. I mean, that's how I woke up. I would wake up, I'd run or go to the gym or both. Um, it took me, I mean, I just came back. I ran the Helderberg to Hudson, my first race in about a year and a half, my first successful training in about 2.5 years. It took me a long time to get there, but it was because I let so many things control my life and my mental health get the best of me. And it was really, really hard. And I know I'm going off on like a long tangent, but I'm proud because I made it back. And if anything, Ellie, when she grows up, I hope that she looks at my struggles and the things that I did and realize, hey, my mom's a person too. And she struggled. And I always make it a point to make it really open with her that she can always talk to me about anything.
Were there specific things looking back at like kind of the worst of your mental health struggles that were particularly triggering for you?
Um, so I was so COVID really hit me hard. I'm a really outgoing person, I'd like to say. I like to be around people, I like to talk to people, I like to go out, I like to do things. And again, when COVID hit, I threw myself into running. I was in the best shape of my life. I ran a 50-mile ultra marathon because I had nothing else to do. But after COVID hit and it was kind of like life was going back to normal, I couldn't find my way. I was drinking a lot. I was just neglecting therapy. I went into inpatient a couple times. Um, and every time I got out, I kind of just went back to like my bad habits. At the time too, I was misdiagnosed, so I was over medicated on meds that I didn't need to be on, and I just fell into a really deep hole that I didn't know how to get out of. And also I'm such an advocate for, I say running's my therapy and working out, but I'm such an advocate to go to therapy, talk about it, take the proper meds. And it was really frustrating, I think, for me, having a doctor tell me that I was over medicated, misdiagnosed. Everyone kind of knows. Well, not everybody knows, but for the most part, mental health is a really hard thing to navigate. There's no meds that work for the same two people. So I guess I know it's a trial and error, but it was just a really long haul through it all. So
Yeah, mental health is one of those things that I know so many people personally who have gone through such intense experiences, and whether it's the stigma of people not being able to see it or think it's real, but it is obviously a real thing. And
mhm,
first of all, thank you for sharing what you've shared,
I
and
appreciate
because I
it.
know it's going to help people who hear it. I really do. Because I think people just don't feel like they can even talk about it so openly. So you go through the worst of that. What helped you really start to make some progress and find a way out of the darkness and despair that you felt that you were in at that time of your life?
I think I got to such a low point of my life that I was like, you can only go up from here. Like, you either dig yourself out of it or there's no coming back from it. And like I keep saying, I've always been a fan of the underdog. Everyone loves a good comeback story. Um, so I don't I don't know how to explain it, but just one day I was just like, I've had it. I I, I really need to get out of this. I switched jobs, which was huge for my mental health. I was a lot happier, just in a better environment for myself, around new people too. So I kind of had a fresh start there. Um, and then one day I kind of just woke up and I was like, you need to run again. And even if because sometimes the anxiety is so crippling that I couldn't go outside. Like I love, like I said, running out on my own, being detached. And it got so hard that I was just running on the treadmill because I felt I was in my safe space. And I was like, you know what? If it's even training on a treadmill, at least I'm going to do it. So I re signed up for a coach who basically threw me into it. And I just started running. And I knew that the Helderberg was going to be my 30th half marathon. And I just started slowly progressing in. And I just didn't, for once, something changed and I didn't want to quit on myself again. And I felt a spark of the old person that I used to be.
I completely understand from the standpoint of having that moment where you just in my words, I'll say like the mad as hell moment, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yep.
When I think back to my own weight loss journey, I had to have the moment of seeing pictures of myself in my own sister's wedding and just saying like, look, I'm a hopeless romantic. I don't know if that's ever going to happen for me, but if I want it to ever possibly happen, you have to admit that you're nowhere close to loving yourself. And what frustrates me to no end about a lot of people is there's a lot of people who want to dip their toes in the feet of fitness or health.
Hmm.
And my message to them was love is that you cannot half ass your own health.
That's a good call.
Like flat out, you can't half ass it because you are the only person that you are the only person that can get yourself out of bed and make the decision to actually get better.
Exactly.
People can meet you where you are and help you. So as you start to do that
Hmm.
and see that momentum, can you describe that process of getting that upward mobility, that momentum? You're starting to feel like the old self is coming back,
Hmm.
that identity that you've recapturing.
Yep. So one of my favorite quotes too is not my old running from my friend Rachel, who I used to run with a lot. She used to say, no one's going to save you. Be your own damn hero. And you have to do that. Nobody's going to drag you out of that hole you're in. Nobody's going to do the work for you. And it's funny that you say about the whole loving yourself thing, because that is something that I've come to really start to try to embrace. I was always, I still probably am, but a people pleaser. I want everyone to love me. I want everyone to like me. Um, and I forgot in the grand scheme of things that at the end of the day, it's just you. Like you and your thoughts. It's if you have to love yourself and you have to be a better version of yourself in order to live in this world, I feel like.
Yeah.
You can't it doesn't matter what other people think about you. It's you that has to live in your own skin and be that. And I have a really good friend, Ashley, who lives out in Colorado, and she went through a divorce, and her whole thing has been loving herself and being the most joyful person that anyone has ever met. And that has inspired me so much because you can see how much she shines now because she started to love herself. You know what I mean? And really did work on herself because no matter the family or friends you're surrounded by or my daughter, like I have to be a better person for me first before I can be a better person for anybody else.
Yeah, I've talked about this in the context of my own story, that it was for me about becoming the leading man of my own life.
I like
And
that.
yeah, like, because at best I felt like I was the supporting actor of my own life.
Yeah.
And for you, in a similar way, it sounds like, you're rediscovering what it's like to have real main character energy
Yep.
for your own life story. So you're recapturing that. You're in this different spot compared to the darkness and despair you were in. So when you think about life now, what are different goals that you look at moving forward in your life?
So I definitely have a long way to go. To be completely transparent,
We're all works in
yeah,
progress.
to be completely transparent, I haven't been to therapy in a couple months. I have to find a new therapist. That's my big goal right now. Um, I used to be in it for running to get the big goals or to be flashy, on Instagram because everyone's posting like their best runs and everything. Now it's just about getting back into it and completing it. On Saturday where with the Helderberg to Hudson, where I would usually stress myself over running my best pace or being disappointed in myself, I ran with friends and just enjoyed every minute of it. And sure, I hit the wall at mile 7, was a little miserable at times because it was snowing and then raining, but just enjoying it. And I think my goal is now to, again, I think my most important goal is to be a good role model for my daughter, Ellie, and to kind of keep teaching her that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be sad sometimes or, be upset, but also to teach her that anything's attainable as long as you have hard work and you put into it. She actually just started playing softball, which we're kind of not to, she's going to watch this probably 10 years from now and be like, I can't believe my mom said that, but she's not the most athletic kid in the world. She's adorable. But she really loves it and she isn't bad at it. And
She's
she
got
wants
time.
to give, exactly. She's got plenty of time, but, it makes me happy to see her doing things like that, even though she wanted to do it just for her friends. But she's doing something that, getting out of her comfort zone and kind of pushing herself through. So
She's pretty resilient. I still remember the time we were at the bunker and we're trying to talk about ways of collaborating together. And there was a little bit of a incident at the house and you were FaceTiming her to make sure she was okay.
she smashed her face off the pavement sleigh riding. Yep. And she's like, Mommy, are you going to come home soon? I'm like, yeah, I'm eating lunch. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Put some dirt on it.
Exactly. See, she's resilient.
Yeah, she's resilient.
She got through it.
Yeah. And we were also talking about anatomy when
Yep.
we were sitting at the bunker. So
Another shout out.
another shout out to
Love
anatomy.
anatomy. Yep.
Yeah. So I've had some great experiences, great memories there. They've been a big part of my fitness journey as
Yeah.
well. Can you talk a little bit more about anatomy and how that's played into your own journey?
Yeah. So I used to never strength train when I ran. The only bit of strength training that I did was when I was in college as a soccer player. We had to mandatory lift. So JP Ilario actually was like, hey, this gym's by our house. You should try it out. So I used to go just once a week, Mondays, for strength training. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. Like Pat and Eileen are the best. And everyone, I know it's grown so much. They're all the best now. Or they are all the best. But it was such a safe community where nobody judged. And it was very welcoming because it's scary going to a new place. As much as I like to say I'm outgoing, I am an introvert in a way. Like I get really nervous about those things. But they're so welcoming and they're nice to everybody, as they should be. But you know what I mean. So what grew to going there once a week, and then I started going twice a week, and then COVID hit, and they started doing online classes. And again, what else are you gonna do? So I was taking the class every day, and they were wonderful. Like all gyms adapted to the way that they adapted, but they gave out weights to people, let them borrow it. I mean, they put it down, you'd be charged if you didn't bring it back. But and they had classes online. And I actually ran across a post the other day that was talking about how Eileen was teaching a sculpt class, and it brought me to tears at the end because I was like, in a world that had no connection any longer, these classes kind of brought everybody together. Like you could see people on the screen. It was like a Zoom call, you know what I mean? And then they went to outdoor workouts when we could, and it brought me so much happiness to be working out with those people. And I'll never forget how supportive they were through my 50-mile training. I mean, you know how it is. You walk through the doors, they're so welcoming, and it's just this community, that very small community, that I feel like they bring out the best in people.
It's really cool what they have to offer. And I've talked about it before in my mind as the best kept secret in the capital region. Really,
you would never know it was there.
Yeah, they have a very intentional way that they view the community. They're not looking to do crazy things. I don't think they're looking to franchise or grow up. They're really looking to take care of their people.
Exactly.
And I think that's pretty cool. And the fact that they have all these different things, the intention of Eileen and Pat to develop it as this boutique studio kind of feel and vibe that has the strength training components, yoga, spin, kind of the Pilates fusion class. The class that I've just always think is like the coolest thing they do is the Pulse class that I know is like Bree's baby.
Oh, and Bree is so sneaky hard. It's unbelievable. Like you'll go through a class, you'll be like, this isn't that bad. And then you walk away and you're like, what was that?
Oh yeah, she'll kick your ass and you're just like, that just happened. But
Pulse has been so amazing for my running too, because of like those small, like little muscles and body parts that they work. It's unfortunate right now not unfortunate because I love Pat, but I only go on Tuesdays and Thursdays now with like my running training, so I miss out on some of those classes. But once I take like lull periods of like running, or I used to, so I'm starting to get back into that, where like June I'll go like as much as I can, so I'll get to like experience those other classes again. But
yeah, I love Pat's kind of irreverent style, and I love all the women who are the instructors there, but it's just so fun to have his energy to counterbalance that.
Yep. And he kind of like talks crap to you while you do it.
He's got a vibe. Like when I was going there more regularly, it was the summer of 2023.
Okay.
And I had this obsessive goal at that point in my life of hitting this 200-pound weight loss goal in 500 days.
Yep.
And in the spring of 2023, I just moved back, and I started feeling led to explore all these different gyms. And I approached my fitness stuff very differently at that point. I kind of had this Yelp gym guy shtick of going around all these different gyms.
I love that.
Yeah. And just anatomy was so cool, and the vibe, and even doing yoga there.
Yeah.
With Sachi.
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing.
She's incredible.
They all bring like their own little like nuggets that are like perfect to you, or bring like the solace to you. And I don't know, it's like, again, the whole detached thing, like nobody's on their cell phone, nobody's taking videos or like you know what I mean? Like it just, and I get like other gyms do that, but for me that like brings me like happiness. And I will say this, because I'd be lying if not, I'm attached to my phone. Everyone's kind of attached to their phone.
Yeah.
So in those times, it's like nice to be, again, completely detached from the world. But they all bring like a magical touch to it. Pat kicked my ass this morning. I thought I was going to die 90 seconds in. Yeah. Shout out to Pat for that.
Well, I think about running. I was going for a while to his 6 a.m. body class.
Yep.
And anyone who goes to anatomy knows that there's a 6 a.m. culture Tuesdays, Thursdays, especially with Pat in that body class.
Yep.
And I remember running around the gym.
Yep.
And at first, not easy,
No.
but eventually it got better.
Yeah. I used to be a religious 6 a.m.er. I work from home now, so I go at 7 a.m. But it is a vibe. It is, yeah. And those when he slams open that door and he's like, take a hike, go for a run. You're like, oh, because running around that parking lot is like, you don't think it'd be that hard, but it's humbling.
It is humbling. Yeah. And no, it was a cool group. I mean, JP Ilario, shout out again to JP.
Yep.
Just photographer extraordinaire.
I was about to say best photographer in the area.
Yeah. I mean, there's some great photographers in the Capital Region.
There is.
But JP is like, you know, put him on the Mount Rushmore of Capital Region photographers.
I hope he loves this.
Yeah, I hope so too. Shout out to JP. But I remember loving working out with him regularly because he would go like balls out every time. Like he just
every
gung-ho.
time, especially with the burpees.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's gonna love this. But yes, the
yeah.
burpee. And 6 a.m.ers are known for all the burpees. I personally hate burpees, but yeah.
No, but I just loved being around that type of energy of people, and you could tell that crew really just had this tight knit energy. And the language of cults gets thrown around all the time with certain fitness communities. And let's be real, like certain communities can feel like that, but what I loved about Anatomy was they know what they are.
Yep.
And sometimes that's not going to vibe. Sometimes that will.
Yep.
Even to the standpoint of the themed rides.
Yeah, I love that.
They're all into that with the cycle classes.
Yep.
And those are so fun.
They're so fun. And it's just, I think, you know, like you said, the word cult gets thrown around a lot. And, you know, you can become obsessed with something. But I think you choose your gym too based on how you feel the connection to it. Like every gym brings a little bit different piece of people of who are in that realm. If that kind of makes sense. I think I just like butchered that. But I think like with Anatomy, they have their own niches, just like, you know, Metabolic does, or, you know, Power 518, you know, they all are different and you got to find what kind of clicks with you. I do love the theme rides. I've always hated spin. But the theme rides are so fun.
Yeah. For me in my life now, it's just made a lot more sense to focus my time and energy and memberships within places that have multiple locations.
Yep.
And the best thing to me about Anatomy is if you want to be more of a normal person and just go to one gym, it really is just an incredible value.
So it is less than 2 miles from my house. I have run there plenty of times. Yeah. I've run there. I've run back sometimes. I usually park my car, run around there after classes and whatnot. So for me, I'm so lucky that it's in my backyard. So
yeah.
So
that community I know continues to mean a lot to you. How does that community kind of translate now into your own personal fitness goals?
Going to Anatomy or just weight training in general has made me such a stronger runner. It's empowered me. You go in there, you could be having I shouldn't say bad day because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, but you could not be feeling the best or whatnot, but it leaves you empowered for the day. You know, you kicked your own ass for 45 minutes and you can take on whatever is ahead of you. I always joke and say, oh, it's all downhill from here because that's the highlight of my day. And I don't know, like this morning I woke up, didn't feel good, didn't want to go, was kind of miserable, really thought about canceling. And even though it kicked my ass and I thought I was going to die, like I was smiling with all the people that I was with, you know, laughing with Pat and all the others. And you leave there feeling like, okay, I did it. I can take on whatever is going to happen in my day now.
Yeah, I think of some of my own personal goals, and I don't get to Anatomy as much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
And every time I go, I'm always glad I did, because I remember the last class I did there, I think was actually right before Thanksgiving and right before the turkey trot.
Mm-hmm.
And Eileen was having a group of people that really wanted to train to do the turkey trot.
Oh, yeah.
And she was doing this running class. I think it was relatively newer at the time, and building out run clubs, because everybody's starting to build out run clubs now, which is great.
I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep.
And I took an interval running class that she was doing.
Yep.
And it was great because I hadn't done a class like that.
Yeah.
And just incorporating that approach into my own training was really cool. And they're doing all this stuff with the high rocks now, which is awesome. I know she and Bree and maybe Carol all competed in it.
There are a bunch of them did it, and they kicked ass. Yeah. And now Yeah, now they just held a class on Sunday. I didn't go. I unfortunately couldn't make it, but they did like an information class on it. I'm definitely putting it on my list of things to do now.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about what that is for people who might have heard about it?
So I might butcher it, but basically it's like all these things like you team up, or you can do like a person of 4 or 2.
It's like a fitness race.
Yes. But in the midst of all that, you have to run. So you split up these exercises and you have to run. And like I said, I don't know the details. I know you like sled push, wall balls, things like that. But you run, and it's like a ridiculous amount. Like, I think it's like a total of like 5 miles or 4 miles that you run in the midst of it.
Yeah.
But it takes like, I think I saw a time of like an hour and 15 minutes. Like, that's a lot of work for that long. I mean, mentally, don't think about it like that or you'll be completely psyched out. But that's a lot of hard work for putting it in. But I don't know. I was like stalking everybody's Insta stories and it looked like awesome. They were in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
so
I loved seeing it. I had more ambition in candor to really train to do half marathons and other things this year. And I just felt like, kind of going back to our conversation about overtraining and letting exercise be this distraction and detachment from reality, that I was pushing a little too hard, too fast with some of the running goals.
Yeah.
And I've focused more on strengthen and lengthen, really hammering away on strength training, washboard abs development.
I love it.
and hot yoga.
Yeah.
And actually that lends me to an interesting argument. So
I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
Oh yeah. So one of my inspirations for a couple polls I have done on washboard abs versus dad bod came from hanging out with you at the bunker and some debates that we got into with the various staff. So what is your opinion on this debate?
I love the dad bod. The dad bod's so in. It's probably because I'll never have like washboard abs. So I'm like, oh, the dad bod's cool. But yeah, I'm team dad bod.
See, this is my theory, that the dad bod is more so either that it's like, okay, I don't necessarily want to feel like there's that pressure to maintain that healthy figure.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, you have a cushion, I have a cushion.
But people like Leonardo DiCaprio have dad bods now, and that's like what's in.
That's true.
But I will give you huge kudos for having washboard abs, because I secretly
I don't have them yet.
You're getting there. You're close.
There.
You're closer than I am. That's for sure. And I have no shame in that game.
I don't know if I'll ever be a parent, so sometimes it's like whether is it team father figure versus dad bod.
Figure. That's a new way to say it.
Yeah.
I think dad bod, embrace it, whether you're a dad or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things, though, that like in all seriousness is a real factor in couples. And I'm a single guy, so I don't have this dynamic. But I know there's that real pressure in relationships where that could be such an either unspoken factor of tension.
Yep.
Where people don't necessarily have the same fitness goals. So how does that work for you with your husband?
So I will say this. My husband is, he's an athletic guy. He loves sports. He is
great guy from what the couple conversations I've had with him.
Thank you. He'll appreciate that. He's a varsity basketball coach in
so
the area.
Helps. You're both athletes.
Yeah. And he has run 2 half marathons, actually. One when I was pregnant with Ellie. And then another when he was trying to beat my half marathon PR, which he didn't. I'll just put that up there.
Does he have like space on your medal rack?
He used to have his own medal rack and he didn't put it back up. Now mine takes up the whole wall. But
yeah, you have, for people who might not understand what I'm talking about, I know from your Instagram that you have a medal rack of all your different medals from marathons.
So it was a gift from Steve. It has 5K and a hook, 15K and a hook, half marathon and a hook, and then marathon and a hook. And it's amazing. It's so cool. And then right above it, I have all my bibs hanging. It is my favorite thing. And it's, yeah.
So where does he put his like 2 token marathons?
I think they're in the basement. It's so bad. But it's funny. Like, he doesn't go out there. He doesn't do it, but he's always been really supportive of me. I'll come home and I'll be like, oh, I ran 5 miles. And he'll be like, that's like, congrats. That's cool. And I'm like, you don't care. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And then having Ellie and, watching a kid through a marathon is really hard. That's,
Yeah.
4 hours of entertaining a kid that's not doing much. So,
So,
yeah,
but you've lived this out with him. Like what's some of your practical advice for couples that might be struggling with how to talk to each other about being on the same page with whatever their fitness or wellness goals are?
So I think the biggest thing for Steve and I is that he has his own, he may not be into fitness, but he has his own things that he's into. So, like he's a big golfer too. So on Saturday mornings, I get the time in to long run. On Sundays, he gets his time to golf. So you have to kind of like switch it up in a way, and you support them as much as they support you. Um, I think that it makes it easier because as an athlete, as he's an athlete too, he kind of gets it, even though we don't have the same fitness goals or do the same things. I always try to talk him into going to anatomy, and he's like, no, I'm good. Um, but he has different interests. He loves to golf and he does that a lot. So I think it's being supportive of what your ambitions are, no matter what they are. So.
But do you ever split the golf pod at the bunker? Do you ever do that together?
Yeah, we golf with Ellie all the time. I don't really. So we used to play every Sunday before I had Ellie, and now I have like a nice set of clubs that sit in the garage. But Ellie loves to go to the bunker. She started golfing, so they golf, and I just watch and enjoy.
Yeah. So does that mainly impact, I guess, like, let me kind of talk through this in the sense that, okay, you have your individual sport, he has his individual stuff, and that's just the way that I guess that it works out for you two. But like, how do you talk through like that you just know that that's going to be okay, that you do your own thing, he does his own thing most of the time, and then you're occasionally doing some stuff together?
I think it kind of, so, some couples can work out together every day. And I will say this, and I've said this to tons of people. Steve and I think, have run together. I think I can count it on one hand. And every single time we've run together, it has ended in an argument in some way. Some couples just aren't meant to like work out together. Or I think we're very independent people too, that we can kind of do our own things, but then you come back and you get to enjoy those things together.
But that's good to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every relationship is different in how it plays out. Like I said, I see people in anatomy that are couples and that work out together every day. I couldn't do that. I think if Steve was sitting right here, he said, hell no, I wouldn't do that either. So I think you just have to find what works for you. I don't know. I like working out by myself, I guess.
Yeah, I see a lot of people where that makes sense, but I guess mainly I think that there's a lot of people who tend to struggle with feeling that they're the only person who really wants to maybe prioritize
Yeah.
their fitness or wellness. I know so many women that go to the gym, whether
Mhm.
it's metabolic or other places that I know, who I just know they're approaching it at a whole other level than their male partners. And that's not always the case per se, but I just feel like there's a dynamic where more women seem to be prioritizing their fitness or wellness than men
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
It's like, I can see that, but I also think, and I'm not good with like, I don't know, I guess like the physics behind all of it or whatnot. But I find that, you grow older and women have to work a little bit harder to stay in shape and whatnot. My husband is going to be 49 years old and he doesn't work out and he is a stick. Like he doesn't gain weight or anything like that. And I'm not saying that's the only important thing about a fitness journey, but it feels good to like keep off weight, be in shape when you're working out and whatnot. And I know it's harder for me at an older age to keep the weight off and things like that. So
I think most people on a primal level pretty much just want to look good naked and be able to have some pizza.
I
when it
agree.
comes to their fitness journey.
It's pretty much, it all has to even out in some way. So
Yeah.
I'm completely with you there.
Yeah. Well, I guess with the time we have left, when you think about people who are at that darker point of their fitness or wellness journey, and we've talked about maybe practical advice being like, you got to get mad enough to just say, I've had it, I'm not going to take it anymore. But what would you say to people based on your own story?
I think that you have to listen to your body. I think like we were talking about overtraining. I think I definitely hit a wall and I definitely pushed myself beyond that I should have. And that's why I did take so much time off. But I also think that um you have to start small to build big again. When people are starting to run, they're like, "Oh, if you think about it, when you're starting back up or you're starting to run in general, you're like, oh, I'll just run 3 miles. And you try to go out and run 3 miles, and that's the hardest thing in the world because running 3 miles is not easy. So you have to start small. I tell people, if they're going to start running, like maybe like run a minute, walk 2 minutes, you have to gradually ease into it. Um, I think I woke up one day and I got really sick of looking at myself in the mirror and not doing the things that I used to love to do. But I also think that you have to be really gentle with yourself and you have to find a way to make yourself happy. And like you said, like you had big goals and now you're concentrating on strength training. You're listening to your body and you're doing what benefiting you at the time. And you can still have those big goals. I mean, things are crazy nowadays. Everyone's doing things at older ages and succeeding at them. So there's so much time to do all those things, but I think you have to be patient with yourself as well. So,
There's like a dial in my mind internally with the amount of pressure you're going to put on yourself.
mhm.
And earlier on, sometimes you have to get mad enough to put more pressure to force yourself to just like something's just got to click the way that it did for you to fix it. But then ultimately over the long run, you got to figure out how to sustainably move those goalposts.
Yep.
When you kind of think back to like where you are now, how do you keep that sustainable? Like how do you not like risk going back to like darker places? Because you've said that you are continuing to work on a lot of things.
Yep. So honestly, I think about it's like a hard thing to say, but like it'll be like a really hard day and I don't want to get up and run. And then I'll think of myself like being, and this is like going back to like my real mental health stuff, but I'll think about being back in inpatient where I couldn't even go outside or get to enjoy the things that I loved. And I think about how I don't, and this is a quote that people say, you don't have to work out, you get to work out, or you don't have to run, you get to run. So everything's kind of, you get to enjoy this time, even no matter how much it sucks, and embrace it. But also, you never feel bad after it. Like you may feel like crap because you felt like crap to begin with, but like no one has ever gone through a workout. I know it's cliche to say, but no one goes through a workout and it's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So when you look back at moments like that, when you feeling like you're stuck or frustrated in the moment, do you find that when you look back at where you've come from, that helps you to move forward?
yeah, definitely. Because I think once you start pushing yourself and you see the things that you have overcome, it kind of shows you like you can do it. And like the other day after the half, I had to run 45 minutes and it was just that little incentive, but I texted my coach and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And she's like, just walk for 20 minutes. And then I got on the treadmill and I was like, well, if I'm going to walk for 20 minutes, I might as well just do what I was going to do. So I think it's pushing yourself too, to know that you're capable and that you can go beyond your mind. And a lot of the times it's just mental. You got to show up for yourself. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you showing up with me today.
thank you for
And
having
yeah, and
me.
just really being so open and brave in my mind about really being transparent about your own current mental health journey.
Well, I appreciate you having me because, like I've always said, like if you're gonna have a platform, you might as well use it for good. And I hope that the one takeaway from this is maybe one person watches this and thinks, "Hey, it's okay that I'm not okay," or "Hey, maybe I should see a therapist," or somebody overcame it and I can too. So
Yeah, I think in my mind, having a culture and a lifestyle that's built different is being able to build the strength and capacity to talk more openly and honestly about mental health issues and framing them as a key part of physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional journey that's all part of a fitness and wellness journey, and just living a lifestyle that's based on prioritizing fitness and wellness. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your insights.
thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Kristen.